that came out.
One of the suspects accused in the shooting death of Jacksonville rapper Foolio made an appearance in court Thursday morning in Tampa. Rashad Murphy.
And was this a
Julio's day? One homie, the same dude who came up with him, moved through Jacksonville streets with him and was there the night Julio got killed, walked straight into a federal courtroom in Tampa, sat down in that witness chair, and told prosecutors everything he knew about who allegedly pulled the trigger on his best friend. Y'all really need to hear this. Kenny Caps, Jamal Howard, Robert Howard, whatever name you know him by, this man already had violent charges on his record, including manslaughter and aggravated assault. He was sitting in federal custody on drug charges involving 50 grams or more, Zena, 50 grams or more, of methamphetamine, facing a mandatory minimum of 10 years, all the way up to life in prison. And the second that federal pressure got real, this man got on the phone under the feds' conditions and stepped into court to help put Foolio's alleged killers on the stand. The streets been talking, rappers been reacting, and today we're breaking every piece of it down. No filter, no cap, just facts. This is the story of how Foolio's closest friend became the prosecution's star witness, what exactly he claimed under oath, how defense lawyers tried to destroy his credibility, what one of the alleged shooters supposedly told Kenny Caps over the phone while Foolio's body was still fresh at the scene, and how hip-hop culture is reacting to seeing a Jacksonville street figure testify in open court. Let me take y'all all the way back to the beginning to understand why this courtroom moment hit so hard, you got to understand who Charles Jones really was. Charles Andrew Jones II, born June 21, 1998, in Jacksonville, Florida, grew up in the Moncrief neighborhood on the north side of the city. His father, Charles Jones Sr., was murdered when Charles Jr. was only 13 years old. That loss shaped everything that came after. Foolio came up under the 6-block side of the KTA gang, KTA meaning kill them all, and Jacksonville fam people really underestimate that city like it's just some quiet southern town. No cap, Jacksonville was putting out some of the grimiest, most violent, most authentic drill music America had seen since Chicago's peak era. The reason behind that was a beef so deep it turned the whole city into national headlines. Everything traces back to 2017. Foolio's 18-year-old cousin Zion Brown was killed during a home invasion, robbed and shot to death. That single murder sparked everything because Young and Ace, the rival rapper from Orange Park, tied in with ATK, which the streets call Ace's top killers. His side was connected to that homicide, and after that night, everything spiraled completely out of control in June 2018. Julio's people allegedly caught Young and Ace's brother and 2 friends leaving a steakhouse. After a birthday celebration, they sprayed that vehicle up. Trayvon Bullard, Ace's brother, was killed. 2 more men inside the car died. 2 Ace was the only survivor, and Foolio posted disrespectful content about the dead online afterward. He was only 19 years old. No filter, no fear. After that, the violence never stopped escalating. Foolio got shot, survived, got shot again, survived again, then survived more attempts after that. This man lived through 4 separate attempts on his life over the years. He used to hop on Instagram Live saying, "I can't die, dummy, I got voodoo on me." The beef created diss track that exploded online. Young and Ace dropped "Who I Smoke," flipping Vanessa Carlton's 1,000 Miles while naming dead KTA members. Foolio answered back with, "When I see you remixing Fantasia, Florida." Drill music was literally born out of this war. Real recognize real. This wasn't industry-made beef. We're genuine enemies. Now enter Kenny Caps, Jamal Howard, known around Jacksonville as Kenny Caps. He came up in the same neighborhoods as Foolio. These two had history going back to childhood. Kenny Caps wasn't just some random associate hanging around the crew. This man was inside Foolio's close circle. Was at the Tampa birthday trip the night Foolio got killed. He was physically there, and that alone, one of the most critical witnesses in the whole trial. June 23, 2024, Foolio had just turned 26 the day before him, and his people drove from Jacksonville to Tampa to celebrate. They originally planned an Airbnb pool party, but authorities shut it down because too many people were there. So now the felon's whole crew is scrambling late at night trying to figure out somewhere else to stay. That last-minute chaos ended up costing Foolio his life. Here's what the prosecution explained in court. These 4 defendants, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davin Murphy, all from Jacksonville, allegedly tied to ATK and another group called 1200, had reportedly been following Foolio's location all day long. Foolio was posting everything in real time on Instagram stories, his location, his movements, all of it. And according to prosecutors, his enemies were watching every single post. Surveillance footage allegedly showed the defendants' vehicles appearing at multiple locations locations where Foolio's group stopped that night. This wasn't random at all. Prosecutors described it as a coordinated ambush that tracked this man across state lines. A Tampa police detective testified there were no extra stops between Jacksonville and Tampa, meaning these men allegedly drove from Jax to Tampa for one reason only: to catch Foolio slipping around 3-0 in the morning. Foolio's crew was outside a Homa 2 Suites hotel in Tampa trying to secure rooms after the Airbnb situation fell apart. That's when the shooter allegedly pulled up, masked up, and armed with pistols, carrying extended magazines along with rifles fitted with brass catchers. Then they opened fire. Dozens of shots ripped through the parking lot. Foolio was hit in the heart, lungs, and aorta. He didn't make it. 3 other people were also wounded during the shooting. The medical examiner later testified about the wounds. Foolio suffered the fatal shot went directly through his heart at only 26 years old on his birthday weekend. Charles Jones was...
In the early morning hours of Sunday, June 23rd, Jacksonville rapper Charles Jones arrived at Teaser's Gentlemen's Club in Tampa for a paid performance.
He's the gentleman wearing the red beanie hat.
That's Tampa Police Homicide Detective Juan Ramos identifying the rapper, known as Julio Foolio, in new surveillance video from the club's parking lot. Suspects Alicia Andrews, Isaiah Chance, and Sean Gathright watched this video in court Thursday, too. All 3 face charges in Jones's death in what investigators say was an ongoing rival gang war. After leaving Teasers, the rapper went down the street to Truth 18 nightclub for an after party, posting on social media in live time.
This is the video here from his Instagram.
Surveillance video from outside that club shows how 2 suspect vehicles continued to follow Jones, just as they did at Teasers, and eventually to the Home 2 Suites near USF.
They're approaching the victim's position on foot.
Video from the hotel and a parked Tesla show 3 shooters firing several shots at the vehicle Jones was riding in, killing him.
Now this is where the story gets even crazier. One of the defendants, Isaiah Chance, allegedly had his girlfriend Alicia Andrews with him. She wasn't accused of shooting. Prosecutors said she acted as the lookout. According to the state, she tracked Foolio's location and relayed information back to the shooters. In October 2025, a jury already convicted Alicia Andrews of manslaughter for her role as the lookout. She got found guilty before the main murder trial even officially began. That alone showed where this case was headed before Kenny Capps even entered that courtroom. This trial already looked like a full-blown movie. Let me explain what prosecutors had already stacked up: surveillance footage, multiple cameras allegedly caught masked gunmen jumping out of vehicles and firing at the hotel area, cleared damaging footage, cell phone location data tracking the defendants from Jacksonville all the way to Tampa, allegedly showing them following Foolio's crew from stop to stop throughout the night. Phone records reportedly showed no side trips, either straight from Jacksonville to Tampa, some straight ghost protocol type DNA. Evidence too. A rifle recovered at the scene reportedly had DNA on there. The non-adhesive side of tape wrapped around the weapon testing showed a mixture from at least 4 people, with one major contributor allegedly identified as defendant Sean Gathright. That's your rifle. That's your DNA. That's the kind of evidence prosecutors dream about. And then things got even wilder because prosecutors claim the defendants were basically self-snitching online, bro, only hours after Foolio's murder. JSO Gang Unit Detective Christopher Drebeck testified that defendant Rashad Murphy allegedly posted celebratory content to Instagram. He uploaded a photo of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick celebrating a Super Bowl win with the caption, "Hate me kindly." Prosecutors argued Rashad Murphy was celebrating Foolio's death. The internet instantly lost its mind when that detail came out.
One of the suspects accused in the shooting death of Jacksonville rapper Foolio made an appearance in court Thursday morning in Tampa. Rashad Murphy has now been granted 30 minutes of visitation per week with his child and his significant other. Murphy was previously in solitary confinement and wasn't able to visit his family as a result.
And then there's Davon Murphy. Prosecutors played his interrogation footage right there in open court. In the video, Davon Murphy claimed Foolio's diss songs had emotionally destroyed parts of his family. He said his aunt became depressed and bedridden because of the music. Claimed his grandmother suffered a heart attack over the songs Foolio was releasing. And then after detectives stepped out of the room, Davon Murphy allegedly mimed shooting a rifle at the interrogator while still on camera during a murder interrogation, right after talking about how deeply the music affected his family. No cap, the prosecution looked incredibly prepared just off that tape alone. But defense lawyers weren't backing down either. They started attacking weak spots in the investigation. No clear visual identification of the shooter's missing search warrants for certain locations, questions about who actually controlled some digital accounts. The defense tried punching holes anywhere possible. That's when prosecutors needed someone who was actually present that night. Somebody from Foolio's own circle who could speak on what happened. Somebody who could testify not just about the shooting, but about conversations afterward. That's when Kenny Capps finally took the stand on day 7 of the trial. Day 7. The courtroom in Tampa, packed out. Social media had been waiting for this exact moment. Prosecutors called Jamal Howard to the stand. The man Jacksonville streets know as Kenny Capps Foolio's childhood friend. He walked up there and sat facing 4 men accused of first-degree murder, 4 men potentially facing the death penalty, and then he started talking. He testified that he and Foolio had known each other since they were children growing up in the same Jacksonville neighborhood. He said he traveled to Tampa with the group for Foolio's birthday celebration. He described leaving the club and riding in a separate vehicle toward the hotel where the shooting later happened. Then the prosecutor asked what exactly happened. Once gunfire started, his exact words: "I hear the shots go off." Dixie used 6 words: "I hear the shots go off." I deke, he testified. He never actually saw the shooters because he immediately dropped to the ground once the bullets started flying, and at first that testimony might not sound huge, but fam, what happened after the shooting is what turned Kenny Capps into the most important witness in this entire case, because Kenny Capps testified that after Foolio was murdered, he received a phone call from defendant Rashad Murphy, and during that call, Rashad Murphy allegedly told him he forgave him. Kenny Capps testified Rashad Murphy said he had seen him that night. Said things implying he spotted Kenny Capps walking down the club stairs. Prosecutor: what exactly did he say during the call? Kenny Capps: he forgives me again, he forgives me again, he forgives me. Asked: where was I? Prosecutor: did you understand what he meant by where were you? Kenny Capps: where was I at? Like I was around and stuff, like he saw me walking down the stairs at the club, I guess. Let me really break this down. One of the men accused in Foolio's murder allegedly called Foolio's best friend after the shooting and basically confirmed he was in Tampa by referencing details about Kenny Capps' movements that night, details only somebody physically there would allegedly know. That's massive. This wasn't some anonymous tip line caller. This was a defendant potentially placing himself near the scene through his own words during a phone call with a witness. Prosecutors got exactly what they needed from Kenny Capps, but hold on, because defense lawyers came prepared too. The second cross-examination started. They immediately attacked Kenny Capps' credibility, and here's the real reason this testimony became such a huge debate online. Kenny Capps wasn't some clean-cut citizen who accidentally witnessed a crime. Not even remotely close. Kenny Capps, whose legal name is Robert Howard III, was only 22 years old and sitting in federal custody himself in July 2024, just weeks after Foolio's death. Kenny Capps was indicted federally on 2 counts related to distributing 50 grams or more of pure methamphetamine. The charges were announced by U.S. Attorney Roger Hanberg's office, the ATFBI, and Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. All participated in the case. If convicted on every count, Kenny Capps faced a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years and potentially life behind bars. And beyond those federal charges, he also had violent offenses already on his record: manslaughter, aggravated assault. This was a man with serious criminal history sitting in federal custody facing possible life. When he suddenly decided to testify, defense lawyers made sure the jury heard every bit of that. During cross-examination, they argued Kenny Capps only started cooperating after federal prosecutors had leverage over him, that his testimony wasn't about loyalty to his dead best friend. It was about protecting himself, self-preservation, disguised as justice type. And honestly, that's the standard strategy when defense attorneys go after cooperating witnesses. Meanwhile, the internet been arguing this exact topic nonstop. Twitter, YouTube, comment sections everywhere. Because this whole Kenny Capps situation boils down to one question: is he a snitch or is he helping justice for his best friend? That's the dividing line, and people answer it differently depending on what kind of code they live by. Fam, once clips of Kenny Capps testifying started spreading online, the rap internet instantly split into chaos. No cap, this became one of those moments where people expose their entire worldviews by how they react to it. Let me explain what the culture's been saying. First, you got to understand where hip-hop currently stands on the snitching conversation. Fat Joe, during a 2026 Complex interview discussing hip-hop media power rankings, got asked what he dislikes most about rap culture right now. Know what he said? Too much snitching in rap. And that interview dropped the exact same week Kenny Capps' courtroom clips went viral, so naturally everybody started connecting the two situations immediately. Now here's where, keep it completely real with y'all, the reactions online basically split into a few different camps. First, you got the people speaking strictly from a street code mindset. Their stance is simple: You do not testify. Doesn't matter if it's your day one homie. Doesn't matter who pulled the trigger. You don't. Get on that stand and hand information over to the state. Period. A lot of these voices, and there's plenty of them across YouTube podcasts, and comment sections are directly calling Kenny Capps out. Their argument is if Julio was really your brother since childhood, then you don't let the government use you as their tool. Either you handle it yourself or you leave it alone. But you don't sit in federal court under oath talking, and in their eyes, the timing makes it look even worse because Kenny Capps didn't suddenly come forward right after the murder happened. He only started cooperating after he was facing 10 years to life on federal meth charges. So the defense argument that this was about helping himself instead of honoring Foolio has really connected with that side of the internet. Then there's another camp, and honestly, this side has gotten louder lately, especially after the young thug Issel Rico trial, the Didi situation, and all these massive high-profile court cases happening in real time. Their argument is, why does the code only protect the people accused of taking lives? Julio is gone. He can't speak anymore. 4 men, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davin Murphy are fighting death penalty charges for what prosecutors say they did to him, and Kenny Capps survived. He was there. He has information that could potentially help get justice for his best friend, who got ambushed and shot through the heart on his birthday weekend. From this perspective, staying silent isn't loyalty. It's allowing the alleged killers to walk free. And the question these people keep asking is, what exactly is the code protecting at this point? Because Foolio is already dead no matter what happens in court. The real issue now is whether the people responsible get held accountable. And then there's a third perspective, fam. The one that tries to look at the full picture. This side says Kenny Capps was staring at life in federal prison. The feds already had him locked in. These weren't local charges. These were federal charges carrying mandatory minimums with the ATF, FBI, and Jacksonville Sheriff's Office all involved at once. When the federal government grabs you and you're only 22 years old facing life, the whole street code conversation suddenly becomes way more complicated. People online pretend it is a Rolling Stone piece discussing the Atlanta rap scene, and the obsession with calling people snitches made an interesting point. The internet's fixation on snitching sometimes sounds more like people chasing online credibility instead of truly understanding how federal cases actually work and what that pressure does to young men from the streets, because the feds are a completely different monster compared to local prosecutors. Federal conviction rates are insanely high, and when you're a young black man from Jacksonville with a violent history staring down life in prison, deciding what to do next becomes way more serious than any Twitter debate could ever explain. Kenny Capps was inside that building when his best friend got killed. He was already in federal custody. He had information, and he used it. Whether you call that snitching, survival, or justice, that's up to each individual person. But one thing is undeniable. It completely shifted the direction of this trial. Here's what y'all really need to understand about the strategic value of Kenny Capps' testimony beyond just the emotional side of it. Prosecutors already had surveillance footage DNA tied to a rifle cell phone. That speaks loudly. That's the kind of evidence that makes jurors sit up and pay attention now. The defense absolutely had real points when it came to attacking Kenny Capps' credibility. His criminal record, his pending federal charges, the timing of his cooperation, those are genuine weaknesses, and the defense hammered all of them hard. In any major criminal trial, one of the first things defense lawyers do is attack the motive and character of a cooperating witness. That's literally part of the job. But here's the reality: prosecutors don't need the jury to believe Kenny Capps is some perfect saint. They only need jurors to believe the heart of his testimony is true. And when you stack what he said on top of DNA evidence, surveillance footage, cell phone tracking, and the defendant's own alleged Instagram posts celebrating hours after the killing, the overall weight still leans heavily toward the prosecution. That's the strategy here. Kenny Capps isn't the entire case. He's the human element layered on top of a mountain of forensic evidence. And y'all also got to remember, prosecutors already secured a conviction connected to this case before Kenny Capps ever testified. Alicia Andrews Isaiah, Chance's girlfriend, who prosecutors said acted as the lookout, was already convicted of manslaughter back in October 2025. That conviction alone showed prosecutors already had a strong foundation before day 7 even started. Kenny Capps just strengthened it further. Let me zoom out for a second though, because this story is really about something bigger than just Jacksonville, Tampa, and one courtroom trial. Foolio wasn't simply a rapper who got murdered. He was the product of a violent cycle stretching back years, a cycle that took his father when he was only 13, a cycle that took his cousin Zion Brown in 2017, a cycle that took his younger brother Bibby, a cycle that saw Foolio survive 4 separate attempts on his own life before they finally caught him in Tampa. This entire cycle, the KTA versus ATK war, has become so destructive that it stopped being just rappers dying. In January 2025, a 7-year-old child, Burl Allen Jr., was walking with his cousin in Jacksonville when he was shot and killed in what authorities linked to the same gang conflict connected to Foolio's murder, a 7-year-old fam. That's the real weight behind all this violence. This trial isn't only about 4 defendants and 1 homicide, it's the courtroom ending to a decade-long war that consumed Jacksonville's north side. It's drill music being used as evidence of motive. Prosecutors literally played Foolio and Young Ace diss songs in court to establish gang affiliation and intent. It's Instagram stories being used to track somebody's real-time location. It's social media posts being introduced as evidence of celebration after a killing. This is what happens when street politics, social media, and the justice system all collide in 2026, and right in the middle of it is Kenny Capps, Foolio's childhood best friend, the man who heard the shots and hit the ground, the man who later got that alleged phone call from Rashad Murphy, the man who, while facing life in federal prison on drug charges, walked into a Tampa courtroom during day 7 of a capital murder trial and told his version of events. The streets are probably going to debate this situation forever. Real ones are going to have opinions. The rap internet is going to keep arguing about the code, what loyalty means, who broke it, and who didn't fat. Joe said there's too much snitching in rap, but there's another side arguing too many people get away with murder because silence protects killers while victims can no longer speak for themselves. Here's my take, and I'm keeping it all the way real. Foolio lived almost his entire life surrounded by war. He survived 4 separate attempts on his life. He rapped about death constantly, about paranoia, about knowing enemies were waiting for him. Vulture once described his 2019 mixtape Never Wanted Fame as heavily centered around death. Foolio understood the risks that came with the life he was living, and at 26 years old, during his birthday trip, they finally caught him in a Tampa parking lot. Now the real question becomes whether justice gets served, whether the men prosecutors say tracked him across state lines, followed his Instagram stories, and ambushed him outside that hotel end up facing the consequences the law says they deserve. And the answer to that question may come down to what a jury thinks about one childhood friend who sat in that witness chair and decided to speak. Whether you look at Kenny Capps as a snitch or somebody standing up for his dead best friend, that depends on your own conscience and your own definition of loyalty. Somebody takes your closest friend away and nobody pays for it. People react differently. The trial is still ongoing. More testimony is expected. The defense still has an opportunity to challenge every piece of evidence prosecutors introduced. But right now, based on everything shown in that courtroom, DNA evidence, surveillance footage, phone data, alleged self-snitching Instagram posts, interrogation footage, and now Kenny Capps testifying about that alleged call from Rashad Murphy, prosecutors appear to have strong momentum. Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davin Murphy have all pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder charges. If convicted, they could face the death penalty. The judge overseeing this trial has already heard a mountain of testimony, and there's still more coming, y'all. This case is still developing in real time. The trial is active. We're going to keep following every update as the verdict eventually comes down and as the bigger impact on Jacksonville's rap scene continues unfolding, because this story is far from finished. This isn't just one court case. Young Ace has not been charged in connection to Foolio's murder. Authorities have said they continue monitoring everything, but no charges have been filed against him. The war that began after Zion Brown's death back in 2017 has already taken so many lives it's hard to even count anymore. And now the entire thing is playing out publicly in court with the world watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Was Kenny Capps right for testifying? Does the street code still apply in situations like this? Or has this beef gotten so out of control, with a 7-year-old child dead, multiple rappers gone, and families completely shattered, that maybe the code itself needs another look? Real recognize real. Comment below, share this with somebody who needs the full breakdown, and subscribe so you don't miss the verdict once it drops, because when those 4 men learn whether they're spending the rest of their lives on death row, we'll be right here breaking every detail down. Stay locked.